For an entire century, the colossal squid has been the ultimate monster of the deep. It's the closest thing the real ocean has to a kraken, a creature the size of a bus, weighing over 1,000 pounds, lurking in the freezing black water at the bottom of the world, armed with rotating hooks on its arms and the single largest eyes of any animal that has ever existed. We pictured it as this nightmare of the abyss, a giant that wrestles sperm whales in the dark, miles below the surface. There was just one small problem with that image. Until very recently, no living human being had ever actually seen one alive. Not once, in 100 years. Everything we thought we knew about the colossal squid, that entire terrifying picture, was built almost completely out of guesswork and dead bodies. And then finally we saw a real one alive in its natural home for the very first time. And it turned out to be almost nothing like the monster we'd imagined for 100 years. So today, let's talk about how we got the colossal squid so completely wrong. Because the truth, as it turns out, is even stranger and more surprising than the myth. And real quick, if you enjoy having your assumptions about the ocean turned upside down, do me a favor and hit that like button and subscribe, because we do this every single week. Alright, let's get into it. To understand why this is such a big deal, you have to understand just how little we actually knew about this animal and how we knew it. Because the way we learned about the colossal squid is genuinely bizarre when you stop and think about it. The colossal squid was first officially discovered and named 100 years ago, but it wasn't discovered the way you'd expect, by someone spotting one swimming in the ocean. Not even close. It was first identified from pieces, specifically from bits and parts found inside the stomach of a sperm whale. That's how this animal introduced itself to science, not as a living creature, but as leftovers in the belly of a predator. Somebody cut open a whale, found two enormous squid arms that didn't match anything they knew, and that was our first hint that this thing existed. And for the next 100 years, that's basically how it stayed. Almost everything we learned about the colossal squid came the same grim way. We'd find its beak, that hard, sharp mouthpiece, in the stomachs of sperm whales and seabirds. Occasionally, a dying adult, exhausted and near the end, would get tangled up in the lines of deep-sea fishing boats and get hauled up to the surface, already doomed. So the only colossal squid we ever really got to examine were dead ones, or ones that were dying. We were reconstructing an entire animal, one of the largest predators in the ocean, purely from corpses and body parts. A beak here, a severed arm there, a whole ruined body dragged up from the deep, its shape already collapsing under its own weight out of the water. We were doing the underwater equivalent of trying to understand a dragon by studying the ashes it left behind. Think about how strange that is. Imagine trying to describe what a lion is like, its behavior, its personality, how it moves, how it lives, if the only lions you'd ever seen were dead ones that had washed up in pieces. You'd get some of the physical facts right, sure, but you'd be guessing about almost everything that actually matters. And when we guess about a giant, mysterious creature from the darkest part of the ocean, we tend to guess in one very specific direction. We guess monster. And so that's exactly what we did. We took the physical clues we had, the enormous size, the hooks, the massive beak, and we built a legend around them. We imagined the colossal squid as this aggressive, terrifying leviathan of the deep, because those hooks on its arms are real and they're nasty. Unlike a regular squid that just has suckers, the colossal squid has sharp, and in some cases rotating hooks that it uses to latch onto prey. We know sperm whales come up from the depths covered in scars from these battles, circular marks raked across their skin. So we pictured a violent monster thrashing in the black water, going toe-to-toe with the largest predators on Earth. And then there are the eyes, because this is the one part of the monster image that's absolutely undeniably true, and it's spectacular. The colossal squid has the largest eyes of any animal known to have ever existed on this planet. We're talking about eyes the size of a dinner plate, around a foot across, with a pupil as big as your whole hand. Bigger than the eyes of any dinosaur, bigger than the eyes of a blue whale, the largest animal alive. These are the biggest eyes in the history of life, and they're built to gather the faintest glimmers of light in the pitch black deep, most likely to detect the approach of a hunting sperm whale from far away. And to put the sheer scale of these things in perspective, the second largest eye in the entire ocean belongs to the swordfish, and it's only about 9 centimeters across. That's the runner-up, and it would fit comfortably inside the colossal squid's pupil with room to spare. That's how absurdly, monstrously large these eyes are, so you can see how the legend built itself. Huge body, cruel hooks, monstrous eyes, whale-scarring battles in the dark. The colossal squid became the poster child for everything terrifying about the deep ocean, the ultimate abyssal nightmare. And then, 100 years after we first named it, we finally saw one alive. And the monster we'd been imagining all that time simply wasn't there. Because in 2025, on the exact 100-year anniversary of the animal's discovery, a team of scientists exploring the deep waters near some remote islands in the South Atlantic sent a remotely operated vehicle down into the dark. And their cameras caught something no human had ever confirmed seeing before. A colossal squid, alive, drifting in its natural habitat, thousands of feet down, going about its life completely undisturbed. For the very first time in history, we were looking at a living colossal squid, exactly where it belongs. And here's the first surprise. It was a baby. Well, more like a teenager. This wasn't the 1,000-pound bus-sized adult of legend. It was a juvenile, only about a foot long, a fraction of the size these animals eventually reach. But that little detail isn't the disappointment it might sound like, because what that young squid revealed about the animal was genuinely astonishing and completely upended the monster image, because this creature was not a hulking, opaque, red-fleshed brute. It was almost entirely transparent, see-through, a delicate, glass-like little animal drifting gently in the water, its faint internal structures visible through its translucent body. One of the scientists who confirmed the footage described it perfectly. She said it looked like a glass sculpture, a beautiful, fragile glass sculpture floating in the dark. And that word, delicate, was the one the scientists kept coming back to. They talked about how this footage finally let them introduce the colossal squid to the world, not as a monster, but as this beautiful, little, delicate creature. One of them pointed out that the squid had no idea humans even exist, drifting there peacefully, this graceful, otherworldly thing, completely unbothered, in a place so remote and so hostile that it takes some of the most advanced technology on Earth for us to even glimpse it. This wasn't a nightmare thrashing in the abyss. It was something closer to a ghost, serene, elegant, and almost impossibly fragile looking. The most feared monster of the deep, seen alive for the first time, turned out to look like something you'd hang from the ceiling as a piece of art. Now, that transparency is actually one of the coolest things about them, and it explains part of why they were so impossible to find for so long. As a juvenile, being see-through is the ultimate camouflage. In the open water, where there's nowhere to hide, being transparent means predators simply can't see you. You're basically invisible, and the footage even suggested these animals might be able to switch back and forth, going from completely transparent to a more opaque reddish color, thanks to special cells in their skin. So this little glass ghost can potentially turn its own invisibility on and off. As they grow into adults, they lose that transparency and darken into that rusty red color we'd seen on the dead ones. But in their youth, they're living panes of glass. But here's the twist that keeps the mystery alive, the part that means we're still not done being wrong about this animal. Because even now, even after this incredible first sighting, there's a huge piece of the puzzle we still have never seen. We have now filmed a baby, but we have still, to this very day, never once seen a healthy, living adult colossal squid in its natural habitat. Not ever. The giant, the full-grown 1,000-pound legend remains completely unseen in the wild. Every adult we've ever laid eyes on was dead or dying. The living adult, the actual monster of the story, is still out there in the dark, and it has never let us get a proper look at it. And there's a genuinely eerie reason for that. Remember those enormous world record eyes? Scientists think the adults use that incredible eyesight to spot danger from far away, and to them, anything large approaching through the water is a threat. So the theory is that when one of our submersibles comes cruising through the deep with its lights on, a big, strange object moving through the black, the adult colossal squid sees it coming from a long way off, and it quietly slips away into the darkness before we ever get close. It's using the very thing that makes it so remarkable, those massive eyes, to avoid us entirely. The adults aren't just hard to find, they may be actively, deliberately hiding from us. So think about where that leaves us. After 100 years, we've finally seen this animal alive, and it completely rewrote our image of it. The terrifying monster turned out to be, at least in its youth, a delicate glass sculpture drifting peacefully in the dark. But the full-grown adult, the real giant, is still a genuine ghost, still unseen, still slipping away from us every time we get close, still keeping its secrets in the deepest, blackest water on the planet. And honestly, that might be the most important lesson in this whole story. For 100 years, we were so sure we knew what the colossal squid was. We had it all figured out, this violent nightmare of the abyss, and the very first time we actually really looked at a living one, it turned out we'd gotten the whole feeling of the animal wrong. It wasn't a brute. It was something delicate, beautiful, and strange, living a quiet life in a world we can barely reach. It makes you wonder how many other creatures down there we've completely misjudged. How many other monsters of the deep are actually gentle, glass-like ghosts, drifting peacefully in the dark, patiently waiting for us to finally stop guessing and actually come and see them for what they really are. The colossal squid spent a century as the ocean's great monster, and it turns out we had it wrong the entire time. We were never looking at a monster. We just hadn't looked closely enough to see the truth. If you want to meet the one predator that actually does get to see the adult colossal squid up close, the sperm whale that dives miles into the dark to hunt it, then check out this video right here, because that battle in the blackness is even stranger than you'd think.